Turns out I was wrong. The present is not a story. It's a comedy show. Hello, my name is Joe and I review all of your favorite TV shows on my channel and on my Patreon. Check out the channel, join the Patreon, let's talk about Yellowjackets. I need everyone in the comments to tell me whether you believe the paranormal activity happening in the past and in the present, because I don't. And it feels pretty lonely right now. I feel like I'm the only person out here saying, can anyone spell coincidences? Is everyone believing that there are actual spirits in the forest? Because when I see the windy stuff, I think, oh, another coincidence. But let's take this slow. What's happening in the past? Well, they are trying to decide who's going to kill Coach Scott, and they draw cards for some reason, and the card lays on Ty. And the whole episode is Ty and Van trying to figure out how are they going to bring out Dark Ty so Dark Ty shoots Coach Scott. Scott? Where did that come from? Coach Ben. So that Ty doesn't have to do it. And I mean, even the title of the episode is about Ty, and it kind of feels like they are trying to say more than whoever's going to shoot Coach Ben. And it feels like they are asking, or they're trying to get the audience to ask, did Dark Ty visit her son in New York? Did Dark Ty burn the cabin? Did Dark Ty appear to shoot Coach Ben? I mean, we know she appeared, we saw her. But is any of it even making any sense at this point? This is what I'm asking myself. Is this show making any sense? Because they spent last episode, the whole episode, doing the trial for Coach Ben. And now they spent this entire episode deciding who is going to shoot him. And then in the end, they didn't shoot him. Because why? Because some girl had an hallucination in a cave that gives everyone hallucinations, and they think it's a sign. Baby girl imagined Coach Ben as a bridge to society again, and now they are keeping him. And in a way, I feel a little vindicated because this is what I was saying in my previous review or the one before that they couldn't possibly spare Coach Ben. They had to keep him because he was the one who found the goddamn box with the supplies. They have to keep him because he has information that they need to potentially find more supplies, to potentially find a way out of there. So, look at that. Look at that, they didn't kill Coach Ben. What a shocker. What a surprise plot twist. Who would have thought that the man who has the most contacts to society by finding that box of supplies, potentially being able to tell them where he found it, and potentially finding more. What a surprise that they were smart enough not to kill him. I'm sorry, not smart enough. They weren't smart enough not to kill him. They were religious enough. I don't know that this is how a group of girls would behave in the wild, to be honest. I don't feel like it's an accurate portrayal of how a group of girls would behave in the wild. But anyway, they don't kill Coach Scott, and I mean, the titles of the episodes for this season are kind of a dead giveaway that they might escape at the end of this season. And I know that there's going to be 2 more seasons, right? This show is greenlit for 5 seasons, I think. So if there are going to be 2 more seasons, it would make sense that 3 seasons were for them in the forest, in the wild, and then they would do 2 more seasons of them readjusting to society, potentially still dealing with this paranormal activity that clearly is in their heads. But let's see the titles of the rest. Yeah, so title of episode 6 is Thanksgiving Canada. 7 is Crook. 8 is A Normal Boring Life. Sure. And then 9 is How the Story Ends, and 10 is Full Circle. So we have to see them like being rescued, right? We have to see the shot that we saw in the beginning of the whole show. And I know how everyone feels about my theory that the present is all a story and they're making it up as they go along. I know there's a lot of plot holes. I took that out of my ass and it just felt like it wasn't real. I still think about it. I still think about it. I still think about the possibility that even if they were rescued and even if they are living in modern society, maybe part of it is fictitious because it's so goddamn weird. It's so goddamn strange. But before we talk about the present, let's address Melissa. Melissa has become a very significant character in this season, and it has to be, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, it has to be because she's going to be a major character in the present. We've already lost Natalie last season, and now we lost Lottie. Like, the cast from the present timeline is looking bare. He's looking really bare. Not bare, bare. And they need to add another cast member, and it's absolutely going to be Melissa, and she's absolutely going to be behind all of these shenanigans with Shauna. Because in the past, they're getting close, romantically close, and everyone was surprised. Like, baby girl grabbed her bloody hands, and everyone was like, what? What? Since when, Shauna? And, I mean, they should have known. Because Jackie, they should have known. But yeah, Melissa doesn't even look like a girlfriend. She looks like a minion, like someone who is obsessed with Shauna and with Shauna's leadership and with Shauna's power and with Shauna's not giving a shit stuff. It doesn't even seem like she wants to be with her or that she likes her. It seems like she's looking for someone to look up to. Even when they go to cut Ben's food, she's the one who tells her to do it. She's the one who gives her the knife and it's like, come on, babe, do it for me. And it's like, does Melissa like her? Does Melissa care about her? Or is she just scared and looking for someone to... Is she Fleabag talking to the priest? Is what I'm asking. Is she Fleabag? I'm so sorry. That was an insult to Fleabag. Taking it back. And when they did that to Coach Ben, I was thinking, do these girls know that he could bleed out from that wound? Isn't it like the back of the ankles, a place with a lot of vessels, like the throat and behind the knee? Do they know he can bleed out? I would be honestly elated if they woke up the next morning to find Coach Ben dead amidst all the animals being eaten. I mean, he wouldn't be eaten because they're all like vegan animals. Not vegan. How do you say that? Herbivores. But what I think is interesting is seeing the dynamics of the group in the past, because they are becoming very siloed, very clustered together. We have Melissa and Shauna, Ty and Van, now Natalie and Misty. I mean, now we start to understand how Natalie and Misty had that weird ass connection between them. It was all about protecting Coach Van. And then we have the freaky girl with the spirits, Lottie, the girl with the animals, I can't remember her name, and the boy. These are the clusters that are forming, and I think there are interesting dynamics, and we see them reflecting as well in the present timeline. But let's talk about the present timeline, shall we? I mean, firstly, I want to mention this one shot that I have to praise the show for because it was really good. And it's the shot when Ty is selected to be the person who will shoot Coach Ben, and she's terrified, looking at the camera like, what? I can't do this. Why me? And then it cuts immediately to present day Ty as she's super giddy and excited about the food she's going to order at a restaurant. To me, in my delusional, not real theory, I was thinking, oh, she was going through a tough time. She was about to do something really horrible that she didn't want to do. Could she be escaping into a daydream where she's rescued in the future, eating with Van, super excited about the food they're going to eat? Could it? Could it? I know what y'all think. I know no one believes this theory. Potentially, probably, Most certainly, you are the ones with the reason, but it's still fun to theorize about it because they're giving us material for a lot of crazy theories. But yeah, in the present, they learn that Lottie is dead. And in my previous review, I talked about a dagger because I thought baby girl was daggered in the neck, but no, that was a necklace. Lottie's murder is deemed an accident. She fell down the stairs and died, and this citizen detective shenanigans between Misty, Shauna, and Walter starts, and it was fun. Okay, it was kind of fun. I enjoyed it a little bit. But one, why is Shauna thinking that Misty is behind everything? I want her to think of goddamn Melissa because I'm waiting for that character to come. It had to have been her, right? Melissa? And I mean, now that we know that Lottie's dad is with dementia or Alzheimer's or something like that, Melissa could have easily gotten access to Lottie. I mean, they enter his freaking apartment just like that. And I'm trying to think why would Melissa want revenge on Lottie, but it's just maybe something that hasn't happened and will happen in the past in this season. But anyway, we get the citizen detective shenanigans. We see Shauna teaming up with Walter, which was quite funny. We see Misty being her mischievous self, and we see the continuous break between Misty and Walter. Honestly, if it wasn't for the slight comedy, not slight at this point, decently okay comedy in the present, I would have been bored to hell. But I had fun. I had fun. It was funny. I enjoyed the citizen detective shenanigans. And we find out quite a lot of stuff about Lottie. I mean, we already knew from a previous episode that she had some sort of mental illness, some sort of issue with hearing voices, like auditory hallucinations, even before she went to the island. And this is like what I was saying back then. It's another sign to me that all of this supernatural shenanigans, supernatural activity, it's just in their heads. It's just from the stress of literally surviving in a wild forest in Canada, where it freezes to death, where you can freeze to death. And the fact that she was the one who started this religion, the fact that she was the one who already had auditory hallucinations, cannot be by chance. I feel like the show is telling us, don't believe the supernatural activity because it's not real. And I mean, it's mostly on coincidence. Like, the winds, the gas cave, it's coincidence. It is coincidence. I mean, I think it is. Let me know if you believe the paranormal activity. I want to know what percentage of us believe it and what percentage of us do not. But yeah, we find out that Lottie is kind of rich. She lives in a New York loft, or she lived in a New York loft with her dad. And I mean, Shauna was correct. You kind of have to wonder what happened to goddamn Lottie that she left, not prison, the psych ward, and she didn't go back to her father's apartment. Like, what happened to her that she would rather live in Shauna's house after she tried to kill her? What could have happened in that apartment that she didn't want to go back? And we see flashbacks from her dad's dementia / Alzheimer's. We don't know what he has. We see flashbacks of him talking to Lottie about the voices in her head. So, and I mean, they're rich. And you know how sometimes rich people don't want to admit that they have problems, so they hide everything? I wouldn't be surprised if her father and her family tried to hide her mental health problems and by hiding them made them worse. I mean, if Lottie in the past was a teen experiencing these symptoms, like auditory hallucinations are not something to ignore. It's something to take to a professional and to seriously discuss and get treatment. And if Lottie was already having these symptoms back then and they were being hid by her family because they were rich and they didn't want a mentally ill, and they didn't want a mentally ill daughter because rich people have stigmas, taboos, like everyone else, and they just have money to hide it. If they were hiding her condition, if they were repressing her condition and trying to find other ridiculous excuses for it instead of treating it, it would make sense to me that once she is in the forest, in the wild, and she maybe doesn't have access to meds, maybe she doesn't have access to treatment, and she can't talk to the people who comfort her, who stabilize her, and she wasn't taught to honestly discuss these issues, it would make a lot of sense to me that she would like morph them into this religion, that she would use her auditory hallucinations, the voices she hears in her head, as proof of this supernatural entity. You know, instead of saying, yeah, I'm not doing well without my meds, I'm not doing well without my treatment, without my consults or whatever. No, she says there is a force here, because that's what she was taught to do, to hide her problems, her symptoms, and masquerade them as something else. That would make a lot of sense to me. And if that's what's happening, and if that's what kept happening, and if that is why baby girl Lottie did not want to go back to her father's house because she didn't feel safe there, she didn't feel understood there, it would make sense to me. Honestly, it would be one of the few things that make sense to me in this show. And here is my maybe praise of this show. This is my defense. This is my defense of this show. We've seen a lot of weird shit happening, right? Everyone has been feeling like they might be losing the plot. We've been feeling this season, maybe a little bit last season as well. And this is what I'm gonna say. These girls went through a lot in that forest. We've seen probably at this point most of it. It's already a ridiculous amount of trauma that the majority of the population would never experience in their lives. And they did. And they were completely altered, changed by it. And the fact that the present timeline is so weird and so freaky and looks so messy could just be because of what happened to them in the goddamn forest that I keep wanting to calling an island. And if the showrunners at the end get to a point where they manage to make sense of all of this simply through the psychological impact that being in that forest had on them, I will be content. I will be satisfied. I would be barely full of contentment for this show. And I feel like that could be where this is going, because we are already seeing this with Lottie. We saw it a little bit with Natalie. Misty has always been freaky. Let's point that out. And I feel like the conclusion to this idea of all of these freaky things that look messy and look pointless are happening. The conclusion to all of this could be between or within the stories of Shauna and Ty. To me, those are the two stories that really tie up this idea of exploring the trauma they went through and exploring the consequences afterwards. Because Ty has that apparently dissociative personality, like the alter personality, or how we want to call it. And Shauna is Shauna. I think we haven't seen the worst of Shauna yet. So this is what I think could happen, and hopefully it will. They will tie it all up in a nice little bow by finally explaining to us the depth of the psychological impact that the goddamn forest had on them. I would feel content with that. If that's how the way they made sense of the show that is messy so far, in my opinion, I would feel content with that. Because again, I don't think the paranormal activity is actually happening. And throughout the whole episode, we get questioned or get thrown the question in our faces, did Ty do it? And then what did she do? Did she kill Lottie? Did she go speak to her son? Did she burn down the cabin? What did Ty do? And I feel like the most reasonable answer is that she went to speak with her son when she was in New York doing the carriages for Van or whatever. I think she went to speak with her son, but I think Dark Ty went to speak with her son, because why did she meet him and he asked her, are you still going to be my mommy? Right? I feel like this is what we are all feeling. Dark Ty went to speak with her son. Why? No clue. I don't know, she knows what Dark Tie is doing, but I feel like that's where it's going. I don't think she killed Lottie. I think Melissa killed Lottie, and I don't think she set the cabin fire. I still think Ben set the cabin fire. And he's playing it so well because he knows they are dangerous, and they are. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say to you today about Yellow Jackets. Join me here next week as I review another episode, and join me for all of my other reviews because they're all excellent. And join me on my Patreon. I'm reviewing The Pit still, which is amazing. Discussions on social issues are taking place on that show, and you should absolutely watch it. Don't join my Patreon if you don't want to, but watch the show, please. It's a great show. Very American idealist, but great show. And I've just finished reviewing Paradise. I'm going to review the RAR murders soon and start Long Bright River as well. So join. Come have fun. Alright guys, see you soon. Bye bye.